Welcome to COBOL Tutorials. In our previous video, we discussed the nomination configuration for elections. Today, we will cover the voting portions of the election process and when you may want to use or skip them. For this demonstration, we'll continue working with an existing election for which we have set the nomination details, but much of this can also be set up when you set up a new record. This is an election that is connected to our Open Committee, but you can leave that field or the award or meeting field blank if you like. Set your voting election dates. Like nominations, if you're accepting votes, you can set a begin date and an end date for the voting window. If you're not accepting votes, then leave these values blank. Note that if you set a begin date, you must set an end date. On the portal, you can see that the dates will display for each election in the system if dates are entered. If the current date is within the voting window, then a vote button will display. We will set ours to allow for voting today. Scroll down to the voting section, which allows you to set up the voting structure. If you aren't collecting votes, then there's nothing to do here, but if you are, then you will need to decide on the voting scale. Single scale will display as yes, no to voters. Multi-scale will display a numeric range. So if you're using multi-scale, you'll need to set that minimum and maximum range in the next two fields. These fields can remain blank if you're using single scale. Voting forms allow you to customize additional questions or information gathering as part of the voting process. Similar to the nomination forms, you can ask questions about the voter or about why they're choosing a specific candidate. If you only want people to select one candidate, you can set the max number of votes to 1. If you have an election where people could choose multiple candidates, then set your maximum number of votes here. Note that if your election is for a committee with different positions, you may wish to set up multiple elections so that you have one vote per position. If you're selecting multiple candidates to the committee without setting the positions, then you can allow for a higher number of votes allowed to select a full committee roster. While nominations can be accepted on the portal, there's no automatic candidate creation step. Candidate records will need to be created manually by the staff. This can be done based on nominations, or if you skip the nomination process, you can directly create candidates for voting. To create a candidate, you'll need a name, a link to the election, and you can also link to a nomination record, if applicable, of course. The description field will allow you to provide information about the candidate that will be viewable to customers when they vote. Note that only candidates will appear on the vote screen for portal users. Voters will not be able to view the nomination data. Under More Commands, you can set a voter query to limit who is eligible to vote for this election. If only active members can vote, you can set this query. If voting is available to all, you can leave the query blank. When customers click Vote on the portal, they'll be guided through the options you provided. Once the vote is submitted, the election record will record the vote records. When the election voting window is over, you can export and add up the final votes and announce your winners. We hope this overview of the election record will help you navigate which voting options to use and which to skip for your needs. Thank you for joining us for COBOL Tutorials.